My name is Andrea Fernandez. I'm Managing Director at C40 Cities. I oversee our climate finance, knowledge, and partnerships, which includes our business partnerships with cities. C40, for those who don't know, is a network of nearly 100 cities that are using their voices and their actions to combat climate change and create greener, healthier, and more resilient cities for all. The book I co-edited with Debra Lam, who's the founding executive director of the Partnership for Inclusive Innovation, is called Empowering Smart Cities Through Community-Centered Public-Private Partnerships and Innovations. It's a long title, but really what it's about is capturing innovative partnerships that we've seen around the world where cities, academia, private sector are coming together through very mission-oriented partnerships to address key urban challenges. And many of those partnerships actually have focused on climate change because that's such a complex topic for cities to address. So how is it that these different initiatives, different partnerships have come together to support cities in creating greener, healthier, more resilient futures for all of their residents? So we're really excited to be able to look around the world at different approaches that have been taken by different cities. And some of these partnerships are more led by academia, some by private sector, some by cities themselves. And thought it was fascinating to really capture some of this fantastic work happening around the world. It's really essential for public and private sector to work together to address climate change. So let's first look at cities. They've got ambitious targets for emissions reductions that are citywide, meaning they cover emissions that are not just reflecting municipal operations, but are much broader and reflect the kind of action needed across transport, buildings, energy supply, waste. And of course, private sector is a key part of that. You know, how do employees get to work? How do corporate occupants reduce their energy use? How do companies reduce the generation of waste and encourage more of a circular economy? So it's super essential that companies be involved in the plans that cities are developing and in that implementation, and that they work together, because cities alone, they don't have the control and they have a limited influence. So that collaboration to achieve climate targets between private sector and cities is really critical. We wanted to include Oh Yes Net Zero because it's a really great example of what can be achieved on climate in a relatively small city. So Hull is 260,000 residents, but it shows what can happen when you bring committed private sector, academia, the city, and business promotion agency together. So it's a fantastic example of actors coming together because they're really committed to creating a stronger, greener, healthier Hull, and to really unleash that economic opportunity that comes with this. So it's a very unique model. We haven't seen anything like that in any other part of the world, and we thought it had massive potential and could have really huge impact around the world. So within C40, we have a City Business Climate Alliance, which is a network of cities committed to engaging private sector to collaborate on climate action. And I think what we've learned from the Oh Yes Net Zero example is that you can do these types of alliances with a real strong private sector anchor, which in this case is Reckitt, which really provided that foundation for this work to carry forward. The other elements that I think were really interesting is how the larger companies like Reckitt and others are engaging the smaller companies, the SMEs, which are often left out of most of the discussions around climate change and the transition that needs to happen. So that pairing up of knowledge between the larger companies and the smaller is really unique. It's the kind of learning we do between cities, but it's really fantastic to see it happening between companies involved in Oh Yes Net Zero. I think the third is that place-based focus. This is an initiative that really came about because there's a commitment to place, a responsibility that the different actors feel towards their city, and that is something that you can find anywhere in the world. Actors who want to come together because they really care about the city that they live in. So we think it's a really fantastic model that any city can do, really. What national governments can learn from models like Oh Yes Net Zero is that there's strong political will out there by both cities and private sector to work together. But there's a need to support models like this. There's a need to support these collaborations. They do take time, they do need resources, but they have huge potential. So that there's real need for that government to support, but also to look at, what are the learnings coming from the policy dialogues that are emerging from such partnerships that are really critical. So Oh Yes Net Zero is a model that really should be replicated within the UK, but elsewhere around the world. So one of the key things that C40 Cities does is to showcase fantastic examples, best practices through our network of nearly 100 cities. We think Oh Yes Net Zero is really interesting and unique, and would love to bring that example to our cities and potentially showcase what Oh Yes Net Zero has achieved, how the model works through webinars, but also through active workshops where cities can think through, what would this look like in my city? What is the equivalent? What are the companies that really care about the city that might be interested in collaborating to drive through strong action on climate change together?